So Melanie, welcome again.
Hi, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. So Mel, as you know, and I know we've been chatting quite a bit on the changes, and obviously with us in South Africa, the second wave of COVID. There's still a large number of people that are working from home, and opted to almost a semi-permanent option of working from home. So, in one of the questions that have come up is we spent more time indoors in 2020 due to the coronavirus, forcing people to relook their home spaces, being from comfort or Zoom meetings or creating your own office space. In South Africa, we're going through a second wave. Do you think that making our homes more homely are still on the cards?
Nicole, absolutely. So the way now more than ever, the way we work, the way we travel, the way we educate our children, the way we live has changed forever. And even once we have immunity against COVID, I think a lot of the things that changes to our lifestyles that have happened as a result of this are actually going to continue through. And we're going to find that there's a new way that we're living. You know, we're spending a lot more time indoors in our personal spaces away from people. Whereas once our homes were only living spaces, now they makeshift offices, they gyms, they classrooms. We've had at-home happy hours via Zoom and MS Teams. We've had to make spaces for new hobbies. So after spending the last few months sheltering in place, everyone around the world, we've started interacting with our living spaces in new ways, and the definition of home or living spaces is being redefined. So there's a couple of trends that are starting to show traction, and this is around the world. Is one of the things is people, if they are in that position, are starting to look for bigger spaces or bigger plots or bigger houses because we're spending so much time at home. So they prioritizing space. And when they do that, it pushes them away from our very urban spaces, our cities. And that's also affected by the fact that we're now able to use the likes of Zoom and MS Teams and meet virtually. So there's so many people I'm hearing of at the moment who are moving to a coastal town and commuting to the office one week a month, and the rest of the time is spent digitally. So they're looking for more suburban or rural, even rural type places to live, and not necessarily urban. So people are looking for more space. One of the other big changes that's popped up on the radar is multi-generational living. So, you know, with the current COVID pandemic, a lot of people are not wanting their elderly parents to live in environments where they will be, they won't have access to them, they won't be able to visit them. There might be more incidences of contagion and those sorts of things. So and a lot of this already started to happen in South Africa. But what's happening now is COVID has actually accelerated this trend, and that's feeding into the requiring more space. So you're getting your grandparents, parents, and grandchildren living in those spaces, and that feeds into that first trend of requiring more space. Interestingly, one of the trends that I read up on recently that's starting to rear its head in the last sort of year with COVID is architects are starting to be asked to incorporate new spaces for package delivery. So around the world, e-commerce has taken off enormously. People who drive around and steal parcels delivered, whether it's groceries or a new TV or whatever the case may be, they steal them off of people's patios and front doors. So architects are now being asked to look at spaces where packages can be delivered. So where they will have access, it goes in and it goes safely and it gets locked. And also it will have some form of hygiene functionality to it. So it'll cleanse your parcels that have passed that many hands before they actually come into your house. And then along with that is that space has a recycling area close to it as well. So as you unpack, you can actually just recycle your stuff as well. It's amazing how things are starting to shift and change. Interestingly enough, and I was chatting to a colleague about this the other day, is COVID is shifting us away from our very popular, over the last couple of decades, very open plan floor plans. So they're starting to become a lot more hybrid or moving back towards closed floor plans. So having walls and being able to self-isolate from the family that you're stuck at home with 24/7 has become really important. And also because we are using our living spaces for so many different functions now: home learning, meetings, study, hobbies, gym. A lot of those will impact the other functions going on around them. So we're starting to designate spaces again, which is really interesting. And the other one linked to that is the emphasis on outdoor space. Having not been able to socialize and not being able to see friends and family, a lot of outdoor spaces is becoming really, really important. And we're seeing it in extending patios, building pergolas, barbecue or braai areas, really investing in those sorts of spaces. Home offices is an obvious one. The kitchen tables and the dining room tables around the world in the last year have really worked overtime. And so people are starting to look at how they can reconfigure their current living spaces to make space for home working. And what's really interesting is they're starting to see a pickup in interest and purchases of tiny homes or containers. And what people are doing is, if they've got the space, is they are using that type of building, putting it into either connected to their homes or into their gardens or anywhere like that. And they're using those as home offices. So tiny homes are not staying tiny homes. They're being morphed into tiny offices or container conversions. So if anybody's in the container business, now's the time. And then the last one, and probably the most obvious one, is we're not having to just be clever about our homes. We're having to look at ways to make our homes more healthy than they used to be. So, we've been encouraged to wash our hands every time we touch something, wear a mask, and not touch any surfaces. So buyers on the market are starting to look for, particularly in bathroom spaces, they're starting to look for technology or surfaces that are controlled either digitally or via voice control, to avoid touching anything, a toilet handle or a bathroom door handle. And a lot of sort of viral resistant surfaces are becoming very popular at the moment as well. Our homes are having to become our sanctuaries as well as our home sanctuary, our health sanctuaries. And so people are looking at how to safeguard their homes. And interestingly, one of the biggest upticks globally in this category, this trend, is the upsurge of bidets, which is quite interesting.
Talking about the bidets, I read in the Good Housekeeping that those are becoming quite popular. And your thoughts on that? Is it because of the hygiene? Is that the reason? And can we expect higher sales on the bidet section? Should we be, hoping for that?
Stocking up on bidets. So interestingly, bidets, it depends on what country you live in. It depends on how popular they are. So some countries, particularly Asia, are very into bidets. America was never into bidets, and it's got there's a whole historical reasoning for that. But what happened during the course of 2020 is bidet suppliers globally reported almost in some cases, up to a 50% increase in queries around bidets and how they work, and availability of them. And they're saying that there's three reasons that is driving this interest. So number one is the toilet paper crisis of 2020, when everybody ran down the aisles with their very full trolleys, throwing as much toilet paper as they could possibly get, and hoarding it. And that left a mark on people, and people were looking for other alternatives to toilet paper, and bidets made a lot more sense. They were looking for alternatives that don't clog bathroom pipes, and bidets popped up on the radar as the next best option. So it was the toilet paper crisis of 2020 that drove it first. A second reason is hygiene. So historically it's been marketed to us by toilet paper and paper companies that paper is the best option, and it's not necessarily always the case. If you read some of the studies by doctors who are chipping in on the B-Day debate, B-Days are actually incredibly healthy and hygienic alternatives to paper. And people used to veer away from them because they were concerned about water wastage. There's actually not very much water that's used in using a B-Day as you would think, which leads me to the last point, which is going green. So, consumers are becoming much, much more sustainable and sustainable conscious. And so they're looking for alternatives to not cutting down trees or wasting paper. And B-Day again has come up, and with a lot more marketing, the B-Day companies are talking about there's not that much water waste that goes into it. And so it's becoming more popular. So yes, the toilet paper crisis of 2020, hygiene, not having to touch any surfaces, and then also sustainability is driving that demand.
Earlier you were talking on about spaces within the home, and we got a question that popped up, just wanting to know, with the less used areas in the home, what are some of the suggestions to fill these spaces? So a guest room or a spare room, a grass area in the garden that remains empty, a second lounge. What are your thoughts on utilizing these spaces in the best and most affordable ways as well?
So, Nicole, it goes back to where we started with, and how multifunctional our homes are having to become, and we're having to really rethink the spaces and how we use them. So spaces that we might have originally used as storage, for example, if we have a spare guest room that we didn't use, or we didn't often have people over to stay, and the parents coming to stay for the weekend, they're starting to convert those spaces into something that's function first. So it might be for a hobby. If somebody used to occasionally do a little bit of art at the dining room table, they like watercolor painting, for example, they'll now be using the dining room table has become the office. So they'll now be confined to another space. And because they're at home a lot more, they'll be doing their hobbies a lot more. So they'll be redefining that spare room for that kind of function. So, there's so many needs in our living spaces now that everything has changed. So our living spaces, we need home offices, we need gyms, we need spaces for kids to play, we need spaces to meditate, we need spaces where we can get away from people and quiet time. So you might find that somebody decides to turn, I had a client the other day who turned a spare room in her home. She told her family that this was her space, and instead of having a she shed, it was her meditation space and a snug. And a snug is not a word we often use in South African terms, but a snug is sort of an interim resting space. It's all about comfort and textures and softness, and a space that I can go and just be. We're starting to have to relook at the way we use all of our spaces. And it'll change the way that we live going forward.
So obviously Pantone has released the two colors of the year, the yellow and the gray. I think most people were like, yes, no. So I just wanted you to unpack these two colors for us and let us know your thoughts on those.
So I love Pantone Color of the Year. I wait anxiously, sort of every December, waiting to see if it comes out and if I'm going to like it. So Pantone for 2021, it's only the second time in the history of Pantone a Color of the Year that they've released two colors of the year. The other time was in, I think it was 2015, where they had pink and blue together, which was those two colors were to represent the almost a gender merge, the change around gender identity and those sorts of things. And so this is only the second time in the history of Pantone that they've released two colors of the year. The first time was in 2015 when Rose Quartz and Serenity, that pink-blue combination, was chosen for 2016. So that year, the two shades were meant to blend into each other, reflecting almost a recognition of gender fluidity and social progress. This year, however, the two shades they're meant to stand on their own, but together as complementary tones supporting each other. Interestingly enough, it's also the first time that grey has earned the honor of being a color of the year. We've never, ever had a grey before. And only the second time we've had a yellow. The previous time was 2009. As it happens, both of these shades, these particular shades, were added to the Pantone color wheel only this in the last year. So in very literal terms, how they've described the combination of these two colors together is the light at the end of the tunnel. So, you know, we've had this horrific year that was 2020, and so many people and so many families and economies and family structures and social issues over 2020. And yellow is meant to represent the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, it's been a really hard struggle, but we can see the glimmer at the end of the tunnel. And there's a woman who's one of the directors of the Pantone Institute, who talks about the justification behind the colors. And her name's Miss Iceman. And she says about this color combination that together, the yellow and gray, the color combination pushes us forward. So it's about our minds resetting to what's actually important to us. So, you know, that's a lot of philosophy and fancy marketing words around two colors. But how a color of the year works, it does definitely have an influence on particularly fashion. And as we know, fashion and interiors are very much linked to each other. So what it means for our industry is gray is going to continue to be popular in different forms. Yellow, so I always say to people when they say to me, oh, must I incorporate color of the year? I say to them, remember, it's a color of the year. And at this time next year, there's going to be a new color of the year. So by all means, pay homage to it and incorporate it, but do it in a more transient way. So for example, if you want to, your home is gray and you want to bring in gray tiles, and you want to bring in a little bit of sunshine yellow because you need it, bring it in something like a throw or scatter cushions or towels in a bathroom. Try not to incorporate color of the year in a permanent way. So, for example, tiling your whole floor or covering your entire lounge suite, for example. So you'll definitely see it. You'll see it in fashion a lot more, but fashion is a lot more transient. But by all means, own that yellow. Gray is very easy to do. We have a lot of it in our homes anyway, in our surfaces. Own that yellow, but own it in a temporary way.
Okay, great. And then following colors, I just also wanted to find out what other colors do you expect to see in 2021, again in our industry, and how you think these colors will affect us.
So interestingly, and again, the impact of a global pandemic is COVID has affected the colors, so not only color of the year, but also the colors that are going to be popular for the coming year. So, for example, because we've spent much more time at home and in our living spaces, COVID has reignited our passion for nature because it's been denied of us. And and this is across the board, globally and South Africa, is we're gravitating much more towards rich earthy tones at the moment. Your greens, your golds, your browns, and your blues, because it's not safe to go outside. So we're craving what we can't necessarily have. So earthy colors give you that very warm and comforting feeling to interior spaces. And similarly, rich ocean-inspired greens and blues, those are really inviting and sort of welcoming and draw you in, creating quite a dramatic but also peaceful atmosphere, because as soon as we connect it to nature, we feel much more peaceful. One of the big colors that they're talking about being in for this year, and it makes my heart so happy because it's one of my favorite colors, is teal, which is like a really rich blue-green, is in particular a very high demanded color expected this coming year, and that comes out of those ocean colors that I mentioned. You're going to be seeing a lot of your rich saturated colors, which is so interesting because it's contrary to your gray and yellow of color of the year. So, you know, jewel tones, you know, your rubies and your emeralds and your citrons and all of those sorts of colors have gone in and out of fashion over the years. Those are very much still there, combining with your earthy shades like saffron and rich magentas and purples and aubergines. Soft yellows you'll see coming in as a result of color of the year. Plum tones, soft purples, and warm, rich colors, as I mentioned, giving you, people are looking for that coziness and that comfort and that feeling of safety. And those earth tones and those blues are going to give you that.
That's fantastic. So as you know, with tiles being one of our major focuses, what do you think are the tile trends for 2021 and what we can expect on our doorstep this year?
So tiles are just another surface that you can apply trends to. So you'll find that a lot of your smaller bespoke kind of tile manufacturers will follow trends quite a lot because they're producing smaller batches, and then next year they'll apply them to something else. But there's a lot of overarching trends that are emerging again globally and in South Africa. So matte tiles are very in at the moment. Gives you that crisp, clean, much more contemporary or even a modern feel to spaces. We're moving away from shiny. Neutral light tiles are still very popular and are going to stay on trend. So subways, so every time I talk trends and every time we research on trends, we see that subways are on their way out. And as you know, subways never are on their way out. They are the eternal child of tiles. But definitely subways are being pizzazzed up again, so up a bit. So you're seeing different colors, different shapes. You're getting the much longer one. You're getting the more cementitious looking one. You're getting different colors, quite funky colors these days. You're also seeing people becoming a lot more brave in terms of the way that they're laying them. So subway tiles are never going to go out of fashion. People are just using them differently. So geometrics in tiles is becoming quite a big trend as well. So you're getting quite a lot of hexagon tiles. You're getting people who are mixing quite a lot of geometrics together. So they might be mixing a rectangle with a hexagon and making certain patterns out of it. So geometrics are starting to be very popular. And it might be in the shape and it might actually be in the pattern that appears on the tile. Wood always is exceptionally popular. That's not going to go anywhere. And wood, interestingly enough, ties back into the color trends that we spoke about. It's those warm, earthy, cozy, create safety kind of feeling and colors. Interestingly enough, we're seeing marble. So marble is coming in much softer colors and pattern and much larger formats. So you're getting whole walls that are done in one marble pattern. Textured finishes, metallic finishes, giving you very much a luxe kind of sheen or a finish, not for too much of a price investment. Hand-painted finishes, that very sort of curated kind of look. So copying precious stone type looks and making them much more sustainable, and again in large format. Psychedelic patterns and colors, which is awesome. Modernized marble, so taking marble, beautiful manufactured pieces of marble that are done in beautiful pink patterns and using that as a focal wall in a bathroom. I'm seeing a lot of that. Large format patterns, particularly in outdoor spaces. And then interestingly enough, terrazzo, there's been a lot of talk about terrazzo going out of fashion, or out of trend. I'm not convinced. I think it's morphing as trends do. So they tend to change themselves as they go through time. And you're starting to see quite a lot of speckled surfaces, which comes from very much that terrazzo type feel. And the speckles are becoming a lot more refined. So you're seeing a lot more finished surfaces like countertops or floors with speckled surfaces on them. And so that's a quick summary of what's on our doorstep, and it's quite interesting because it's such a mixed bag of stuff that's going on, but is speckles and patterns and colors and shapes and modern technology and old world thinking and making it contemporary. And isn't that just so reflective of what the world is going through at the moment?
A little bit chaotic, but I think everyone's trying to find their own swim lane. I do think so. And, you know, when you were chatting about the terrazzo, we brought in that new decor range just a short while ago, which has really took off and is beautiful. But once we brought that in, I did start noticing it everywhere else. So it would be on water bottles and, you know, clothing and, you know, ottomans, etc. was all in this terrazzo mix, ceramics, etc., etc. So you're absolutely right. I think it still is quite strong, and not just in the tile industry, but everywhere we look.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I'm quite excited about the psychedelic colors. I think that will be a pure magic. So Melanie, again, thank you so much. It's always great to chat to you and always to get some new insights, new tips. And we'll chat to you soon.
Great. Thank you so much.